don't know, if you guys don't keep up with my uterus, are they doing the laser thing in your area? We did the whole thing in the front, and then she goes, okay, now flip over. They said, can you please come in for a biopsy, which is basically like when they take a sample of those weird cells, and it's like that's how they test for cancer and stuff. Hi guys, it's Hailey here, and today we're filming another juicy, risque girl talk video. If you're related to me, please, just out of your sake, my sake, maybe not watch this video, because this video is gonna be totally like what I would talk about with my girlfriends, like in a locker room or like at a sleepover at 3 a.m. Just shit that I don't want anyone that has the same last name as me to really know. Unless you're my sister, then maybe whatever, we'll pass with you. I asked you guys to send in the questions that you're even too shy to ask your closest friends to me, because we all know that there are some questions they just run through your own head, or you Google them at like 2 a.m. trying to find answers. It's kind of hard. It's nice having like a personal experience story or whatever, like someone else giving you advice. So that's what this video is gonna be. If you've never watched any of my girl talk videos, you'll quickly come to understand that I basically literally answer any question that you guys ask me. And with every episode, we get a little deeper because I get more comfortable, you guys get more comfortable sending in your questions. So make sure you follow me on Instagram if you ever wanna, be a part of these videos. Without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. Is it normal for the to fart when I do certain workouts? It does that. I'm so embarrassed right now. Okay, I'm gonna answer this with a nice good old story time. So I used to go to this gym. It was Equinox, which is like probably the last gym you want to fart in. And I was in a yoga class, and it was like for the first time I did one of the like advanced classes, so they were like an hour and a half, and like the teacher was really like pushing us to our limits with these moves. And then finally we get to this one pose towards the end of it, which at this point my body is all so relaxed, so good and nice, and this specific pose required our legs to be like up against the wall, like wide open. I just remember like trying to like get my legs on the wall, and like we stayed in that position like with our legs open like that for like probably a good minute. And even though I will say the position was great, nothing wrong with the position, coming down, the reason I guess your JJ farts is because air goes in it, and then when it all comes out at the same time, it makes a noise. Kind of like those fart pillows that you would have in middle school. That happened to me. Honestly, what's even more embarrassing is the fact that people thought it came out of the other side, like they thought I literally just farted. In the middle of yoga class, everyone around me was just like at once, and I just like acted like that was completely not me, and I was like looking around as well. Yeah, that was really embarrassing. So yeah, to answer your question, happens to the best of us. Can I trim and not shave? Is it weird or gross? I don't think it's like weird or gross. I definitely know what you mean. Like sometimes you're like, I don't want to go through the whole thing of like just shaving, razor bumps. And before I would use razors, I remember having this like little machine that was basically like a trimmer like for your legs, meant for like preteens. But in reality, whoever invented those, I don't like you that much, because it makes your hair just grow back a little thicker. Y'all can come on here and say it's a myth, that doesn't actually happen. It happens. It's happened to so many people. Why do people keep saying it's a myth? Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Did you get the HPV vaccine? If you don't know what the HPV vaccine is, I was on the same boat around like 2 years ago, because honestly, I'm from Turkey and it's not something that's very talked about. And then I remember going to the doctor once, just doing like my general vaccines just to get into college, like to be able to go. And she was like, have you gotten your HPV? Like, are you sexually active? And I'm like, yeah, but like, what is that? It's basically a vaccine that protects you against cervical cancer. Also, side note, I got a pap smear. If you're on the same boat as me, this might really help you, but basically when you start having and you're like sexually active, you probably should go to the OBGYN just for a general checkup, maybe just when you start, or like every couple months, just to make sure everything's smooth down there. But at the same time, you really shouldn't get a pap smear before you're 21. I remember I got my first pap smear when I was like 17 or something. They told me like, hey, like we just processed your results and you have some weird cells. They said, can you please come in for a biopsy, which is basically like when they take a sample of those weird cells, and it's like that's how they test for cancer and stuff. And I was freaking out. I was 17. I'm like, what the hell? Like, the homegirl lost her virginity like 2 weeks ago and 21, you're telling me I might have cervical cancer? Like, I was just really, really scared. And then they did the biopsy, whatever, and they said, yeah, they're weird cells, but they don't seem dangerous, so you should just come in for a checkup every few months. And I kept going to the doctor every 6 months to get these pap smears, and pap smears are basically like, it's like a metal thing with like a little brush at the end, and they literally stick it up your vagina. They like kind of like flip it around in there, and then they like take it out, like they just like put stuff in you, and it's just like the most uncomfortable thing for me. Like, I would literally get so lightheaded every time I went there to do that. I ended up changing my OBGYN because I changed health insurance, and then this new lady was like, oh my god, whoever did a pap smear on you before you turned 21, and I'm 20 now, so I'd basically been going for like 3 years. They're like, they're a idiot, because a lot of the time when you do these pap smear tests and these biopsies, they end up being like false positives just because your body's continuously growing. No, like, stop doing these until you're 21. We'll just do like a swab test, which is basically like kind of like a Q-tip, and then go in there with it, and that's for like just making sure you don't have any STDs and you're all clean. And to get back to your HPV question, yes, I've completed my HPV vaccine shots. It's like 2 or 3 rounds of shots that you have to go back for every few months, and especially because I was worried about the whole cervical cancer thing, I was really on top of it. Do you ever do vagina farts during sex? So going back to the first question, this is called queefing, ladies. Oh my god, there's another TikTok about this. On TikTok, her name's Wiz Queefa, and like, first of all, the confidence of those videos. It's like, so she literally just posts TikToks of her just queefing. If you go through those comments on those TikToks, you will feel so much better if you've ever like vagina farted during sex, because it's literally stories on stories and stories. Usually if I'm getting with someone, it's like they've passed the check of being a good person who's not gonna like make me feel like shit about it. Am I the only one who's afraid of using a tampon? I'm so glad that you brought this up, because I kind of like hit puberty while I was still living in Turkey, and in Turkey it's not even that easy to find tampons to buy. Like, they'll have the little ones, like the big ones that they sell like in the States or, you know, other countries. Especially if you've been raised by foreign parents, I think there's this understanding that like using tampons takes away your virginity, or just like maybe your mom didn't even use them growing up herself, so she doesn't really know how to help you with that, and that's totally fine too. It's just what's like available and normal to them. So when I moved to the States when I was like in sophomore year of high school, all my girlfriends around me constantly use tampons. To this day, they all basically just use tampons, because why would you sit on a bloody pad for 2 hours even? Like, I don't want to do that. But because I never started using them from like the get-go when I got my period, when I started like trying to use them like a few years later, I didn't really know how. I remember once one of my friends had to like even come in the bathroom and like try to help me and like guide me on what I had to do. It's a tough concept, especially if you don't personally know what's down there. It's our body, like literally my body that I will have forever, like the one thing I'm never getting rid of until I die. So it's like, I might as well get comfortable with it. So like, don't be shy, literally put a mirror down there, like open it up, look. Also, I will say the first few times you'll probably end up putting it in wrong. Even now, sometimes I put it in wrong. And then also like my periods are kind of light. Oh, flex over there, and because of that sometimes it's even like too dry. It all depends on your body, but you'll never know until you experiment. How much did it hurt to get your IUD in? Recently got one and it was so painful. If you guys don't know, if you guys don't keep up with my uterus, I recently got an IUD. Recently as in probably like 2.5 months ago at this point. And I'd been on birth control since I was like probably 16, 17, something like that. Towards the end of it, I just realized like I would keep forgetting to take it because I just like ended up getting really busy recently. There was this one time I looked at my pills and I hadn't taken it in like 4 days, and I was like, that's really bad and I want to be safe about everything. So I went to my doctor and I was like, yo, like, what are the pros and cons? Like, can you give me the breakdown? Like, is this more dangerous? Is this more hormones? Is it okay for me to be on birth control for this long, like putting hormones in my body? And the way that they go about it, they're like, yeah, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, putting no chemical, somebody else made thing in your body will always be the better option. I just remember my periods used to be like a week long, and sometimes, guys, not even kidding, get out of bed and like get lightheaded. And I would like I had these crazy ass heavy long periods, which is another reason that I want to go on birth control. That literally fixed everything so easily. Like after I was on birth control, my periods would be like 3 days, 4 days, maybe, and like nothing crazy or heavy at all. But since I'd been on the pill for so long and I was like, I don't know if this is good for me, I went to the lady and she's like, okay, well, if you're forgetting to take them, the most important thing is you don't become pregnant. Do not risk anything. And that's literally why I went as soon as I realized I was being flaky about them. And she was like, you can get an IUD, there's patches. Like, did you know that there's like literally a sticker that you can stick on yourself? There's like so many options. There's a shot you can get every 3 months and they all have their pros and cons. And I kind of did all the evaluating and then decided that the IUD would be the best option for me. I'll insert a picture of an IUD right here if you don't know what it looks like, but it's basically this like little like copper thing that like goes in your uterus. It's super tiny, like she showed it to me. Because it's copper, apparently like copper is like a natural repellent of sperm. Whoever figured that out. And then you can also get an IUD that's just like literally copper, no hormones whatsoever. So it's like basically like something a little bit more natural. Or you can get one that gives hormones out. But since I've been on birth control for so long, if you choose the one without the hormones, your periods are probably gonna go back to how they were before. And I was like, hell no, sister, I do not want that to happen to me. So I went with the hormone one. Oh my God, guys, I literally remember I was so scared to go because I just hate the OBGYN. Like you literally lay there and put your feet on this thing as if you're like straight up giving birth or something. And I was so nervous. I get there and they're like, your appointment's in a month. So that was the first time I tried to go and I like got worked up and like prepared myself for nothing. And then a month went by and I went back and she like laid me down, did a like little vaginal testing to make sure everything was great in there. And then she was like, okay, and now we're gonna put it in. And oh my God, I have friends who've done it before and they told me like, it literally just feels like one period cramp when it goes in and that's it. Like that's what they told me. And then I went in there, that did not feel like one period cramp. And I'm someone that doesn't usually get period cramps, really rarely, especially at that intensity. It probably felt, imagine like a bad period cramp times 3. Just this one really, really long bad period cramp. Like that's what it feels like going in. But then it doesn't just stop. Like I have these weird cramps for like 3 days, 4 days after. It wasn't the best experience for me. I don't want to like scare you, but at the same time, like I'm super just sensitive. Literally, I'll get a freaking swab in there and faint. So I'm like on the really weak end of the spectrum when it comes to that. If you have any sort of like pain tolerance, you'll be chilling like a villain, especially if you deal with heavy, crampy periods. It'll probably be like a piece of cake for you. That whole like flex I had going on for me where like my periods are light, like I never get cramps. Karma bit me in the ass with all those things that I would think about my periods in that one moment. It's like, oh, you haven't had period cramps in 3 years? Here, we'll give you one that equates to all the period cramps you would have been feeling in the past 3 years. That's my IUD story, guys. Are they doing the laser thing in your area? I'm so glad you asked because I had the same question going into laser. How are they gonna like laser it down there? Like that's just so awkward. I remember going to my first laser appointment and they're super like guiding. Like they know that you don't really know what you're doing. So they'll be like, okay, lay out, like put your legs as if they're a butterfly, especially if you like get waxed. You know the shebang. I just never get waxed. We did the whole thing in the front and then she goes, okay, now flip over. And I was like, oh my God, I was waiting for this. I'm like, okay. So I flip over and then they literally will just be like, now hold your butt cheeks and spread them as wide as you can. It's so uncomfortable. Guys, how comfortable are we getting? It's kind of crazy. I don't know how I feel about this. What are your thoughts on masturbation? Why is it so weird to talk to friends about? I don't really have any filters when I'm hanging out with people and talking about these topics, but that's like the one thing that I like have realized people get a little bit more nervous to talk about. Maybe less these days, but definitely like when I was in high school and like my first year of college probably, like it just was stuff that we didn't really talk about. Some people get shy about it or they get embarrassed about it. Some people, that's me. But then like if you're that first person to like open up the conversation, the other person is like, oh my God, really? Like it's almost like they've been too shy to like open the conversation themselves maybe, but they do have questions and stuff that they want to talk about. Unless they're like, they've never tried it, they don't really know what it is. And then you can be that person to kind of be like, yo, what are you doing? fine. And some people just don't like doing it, period. And that's as simple as that. But one thing that I will say about masturbation is if you're trying to have good ass sexy time with whoever you're like having your sexy time with, it helps so much to previously know your body and know what you like and what needs to be done to like get you home, like all those things. If you know yourself better, I'd imagine be kind of like hot or something, like transferring to the other person, like super confident in yourself and knowing what you like, because then it just makes it so much easier too. You're like, we don't need to be having this trial run. Like, I know exactly what you can do. I guess maybe not in like a bossy way. Why wouldn't you want to know what you like the best so that you can share it with other people, so that now you don't even have to do it, other people do it for you. Is it normal to discharge multiple times a day? Woo! Girl, what? Yes, of course it's normal. If something wasn't normal to happen, why would it happen? Yes, all girls have discharge all the time. I mean, okay, I don't know all girls, I haven't personally met all of them. But if you take in all the girls that I've personally talked to as a sampling frame, pretty sure you can generalize it to the rest of the population. Does it not happen to everyone? Because if so, let me know, because I need to go back to the OBGYN. How to have casual while being safe about STDs. People can lie about being tested. Honestly, the fact that you're saying like, what if they lie, instead of saying like, what if I'm too shy to ask, even that, like, props to you. Number one, always use a condom if you're hooking up with someone that's like a rando, like someone you met at the club, or like, I don't know, like someone you'll probably never hook up with again, or you'll never see them, or just, you know, like those random people. Just don't risk it. We all know penetration isn't the best part of it anyway. Going off of that, if you are in a situation where you're like, fuck it, I don't want to use it, I just want to ask them and be straight up, I feel like sometimes people look at STDs. Obviously there are STDs that are like a lifetime thing that you can't get rid of. Why is there the stigma around STDs as if like once you get them, you're done? There are STDs that you might have for your lifetime, but it's like we don't need to exile those people from society and make them feel like alienated and they're like others. Like one of my friends was saying, someone with an STD probably knows more about how to take care of themselves and their sexual health than some random person on the street that doesn't have an STD. So if you're ever in a situation where you know you're like, I don't feel safe, like what if they were lying, just go get tested. It's literally the easiest thing in the whole world. You pee in a cup, they do a cotton swab test sometimes, and you're Gucci. You get your results in the next few days, and sometimes if it's something like chlamydia or gonorrhea, like you literally just take antibiotics as if you got like strep throat or something. What color should your vajayjay be? Whatever color it is, that's what color it should be. Unless it's like green or looking like it needs some medical assistance, then maybe go to a doctor. Like this color, I don't know, maybe not. Unless you're like Fiona or like Grinch's daughter. Is it normal? It hurts when he puts it inside and it's more pain than pleasure? Hell no. Nothing is supposed to hurt. It might be like maybe uncomfortable if it's like your first time or something, but nothing is supposed to feel like pain. Y'all ever heard of lube? Look into it. Is it okay for the pink part of your vagina, I don't know what to call it, like the skin, I guess, the inside skin, to be dark and big and kind of out? Guys, I need to tell, did I ever share this story with you guys? I was in college and we were having this conversation. We were like, I guess it was like a revelation moment. Like I knew every vagina was different, but I didn't know that like the skin inside it and the outside of it could also be different. I don't know, like, and then one of my friends was like, no, my friend's vagina is like XYZ. And I'm like, hold up, I need to like learn more about this. Getting some professional research for these videos, guys. Well, not really professional. I went on Google Images. I wrote it in a way where it was like, it would be graphics of it, like what they would show you at the doctor or like in a sex ed class, like graphics of it. And I was like looking and I was like, go on Google right now, look it up. I was just like, oh, that's so interesting. And I just like forgot about it, like shut my laptop, put it away, whatever, went to bed. Wake up the next day, go to class, 7 a.m. Open my laptop and the first thing on my screen is a full-on diagram of like 8 different vaginas. And keep in mind, I'm in a lecture hall, so there's probably like 200 people in this class. And good thing I like to sit in the front because I'm blind. Literally, probably so many people saw it behind me and I was so embarrassed. I didn't even know what to do. I was just like, I opened it and I was like, I shut it down and I'm like, fuck, like what am I supposed to do? I need to take notes. To answer your question, there are girls who literally all the skin is just like on the outside, and that's normal too because that's how they are. I feel like we got a lot of questions answered. Thank you guys for coming to this TED Talk. Everything is just like my answers based on like personal experience. None of the advice I'm giving should be taken like as if it's coming from like a professional or anything like that. This is just like kind of the talks that we have with our friends sometimes. I love you guys so much, all the way to Pluto and back. Bye.